Welcome to the Tony Scott Internet Show for a Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, man, Cardinals yesterday is Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw was pitching for the Dodgers. He is by far the best pitcher in the league. And he had the Cardinals number for a while. Boy, that seventh inning, I don't know what it is about the seventh inning, Clayton Kershaw and the Cardinals. But the Cardinals, big city, Matt Adams went yard, as they say. 3-run home run. Cardinals win the game 3-2. Next stop, the NLCS. So, congratulations. Heck of a game yesterday. It got kind of scary because the Dodgers like they were trying to climb back in, but the door was eventually shut. So there you go. Congratulations, Cardinals. One more series, and then it's the World Series. Let's make it happen, Captain. So I told you a couple days ago how excited I was because the city of Ferguson, since Michael Brown's murder, had registered like 3,287 voters. But now the St. Louis County election official says, you know what, we made a mistake. It's only actually like 128. How do you make a mistake? How do you make a mistake like that? From almost 3,300 to 128. It makes me wonder if they just did that to just, pump everybody up and then let the air out of it and stuff like that. Did they do that on purpose? Because that's crazy. That's crazy. You can't miss by that much. You just can't miss by that much. It just makes me wonder. I don't know. Just speaking of Michael Brown, the protesters Monday night went to Busch Stadium, and we found out why we have a long way to go as far as race in America. All right? The protesters were there. They were chanting. And the fans started chanting back. And it was disappointing. I mean, everybody has their right to... just because they don't see things our way doesn't necessarily make them bad people. But I wasn't real happy about it. But, they're entitled to scream as loud as they want for the passion they have supporting Darren Wilson. They're just allowed to do that. But I've got a link on the Talking 360 page, talking360.com. Just go to the news page of it's like a 25-minute video of the protesters and Cardinals fans. And about 22 seconds in, an old white Cardinals fan begins telling the protesters that they need to get jobs. I got to let you hear that.
They've been working, we wouldn't have this problem.
Come again?
They've been working, we wouldn't have this problem.
Oh, okay. So if black folks had jobs, then this kind of thing with Michael Brown wouldn't happen. Are you delusional? Have you lost you lost your old ass mind? And therein lies the problem, is just the disconnect, the failure to look at things from another perspective. What about the countless African Americans who have jobs, who have blue collar, who have white collar careers, who are lawyers and doctors, who are serve our government? What about the firefighter that was stopped in the firehouse by a cop who thought he was a burglar? What about that? What about being pulled over simply because you're black? You don't think that happens, sir, in the world? See, there is the problem. It's just because that's not his reality, that it's just not possible that Darren Wilson could have done anything else but shoot Michael Brown. There is the problem right there. There is no other way that he can see it because that's not his reality. And if that's not your reality, you're just not interested in looking at it from any other perspective. It just makes no sense. But I bet he went into the game. I bet he was cheering for John Jay, who's a man he's half Cuban and half African American, I think. I bet he was doing that. 3 minutes into this video, they start chanting the "Let's Go Cardinals" turned into "Let's Go Darren." At 8:10, one of the Cardinals fans calls one of the protesters a crackhead and tells him he needs to go see a dentist. You see, I've told my girls this before, my daughters, that When someone attacks you personally, takes a personal attack on how you look, if they call you out your name because they don't know who you are, a protester calls somebody a crackhead and says, see a dentist. You see, when you have your mere presence has ruffled them so much that they just have to personally attack your appearance or call you a name, you have won. Your mere presence has caused you to win because they have nothing else. They got nothing. They have nothing. And in regards to this situation, they got no defense for Darren Wilson. They don't. He just don't, because somebody's protesting and you're going to call him a crackhead and go see a dentist? You have nothing, man. You got nothing. Later on, a small blonde lady starts yelling at the protesters, we're the ones who gave all y'all the freedom that you have. No, you're not. You are ridiculous. Come on, man. Later on, people start chanting USA. I don't know why they're chanting USA, but they are. Another Cardinals fan starts yelling at protesters, telling them they need to go get jobs. A female Cardinals fan began chanting Africa, Africa, Africa at the protesters. Cardinals fans telling protesters they need to remove their hats and pull up their pants. They're outside. Why they got to take their hats off? Why they got to take their hats off? Pull up the pants. Yeah, we've been saying that for a while. You see, but then again, it's the racial divide in St. Louis generally is North City and County and South City and County. Although there are African Americans and there are white folks who live north, but when I moved to St. Louis in 1989, I was told, man, don't be caught in South St. Louis at night. That's what I was told. I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. But then one time, 2020 on ABC did a thing, black guy and a white guy in St. Louis. And it was true. It was true. The racial tension in St. Louis is the worst kept secret in America. And now things have to change. And I'm not going to say every white person. I'm going to say about a lot of white folks, they don't see it because it's not their reality. They can't relate. It's just something that there's no way. Their experience with the police has always been positive. It's always been positive. White person pulled up on the side of the road. Something wrong with your car? Can I call somebody for you? African American car breaks down on the side of the road, even and depending on what part of the country you're in, a Latino in LA, you know what I'm saying? The first thing I need to see your driver's license. That's the reality. And if you just absolutely refuse to see that, then you're the problem. You're the problem. And you may have never even had a racial encounter in your life. And I'm not calling you a racist. I'm saying you have a problem because you refuse to see the world for what it truly is. This world isn't perfect. This country, as great as this country is, and there's not a better deal going on the planet, this country has problems. It's not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But if you refuse to acknowledge that, then to me, you're the problem. I mean, what else could it be? You are the problem. It's just not possible that Darren Wilson could have done anything else but murder, and yes, I'm saying it, murder, Michael Brown. Couldn't happen any other way. Get jobs, and this wouldn't be a problem. Man, come on. Come on, man. I don't know if you remember the TV show Seventh Heaven. This is the TV show that launched Jessica Biel's career, who eventually married Justin Timberlake. And the start, the beginning of the show, when it started with Stephen Collins, who played the father, who I believe also was a pastor on the show. And it was kind of like one of those family shows. And it ran for like 11 years. And it's still running in syndication. TV Guide Network was running it up until yesterday, actually. I think they pulled it because of allegations that Stephen Collins is a child molester. Now, anybody can be accused of being a child molester, but this all comes, he's in a divorce with his wife, Faye Grant, and apparently it's gotten ugly, and she's decided, you know what, I know your secret. And apparently she does, because in a recording, an audio recording of a therapy session that she was in, he pretty much admitted to it. I don't know how TMZ's been all over the story. I don't know how they got the audio, because that's another question that needs to be answered down the road. But the more important question is, who has been harmed? If he's admitting this, are we misinterpreting what he's admitting? I mean, listen to this. It's basically him and his wife, Faye Grant, in therapy. The therapist doesn't really say much, so the majority of the female voice that you hear is going to be his wife, Faye Grant. But check this out.
When you exposed yourself to his 10-year-old sister, did you have an erection?
No. I mean, no. Partial,
Partial erection?
maybe, yes.
How did you talk to her? What kinds of things did you say?
What is it that
What?
you're looking for?
How did you talk to her? What kinds of things did you say?
The exposure happened a couple of times.
A couple of times. You told me once.
No, I said on the list it happened several times. I said on the disclosure.
Several times. Oh, you have to understand I was being shot in the face with a shotgun, so several times.
It happened.
With a 10-year-old. Okay.
Well, she was 11 and then like 12 and 13.
Well, she was 11 and then she was 12 and then she was 13. Seriously?
There was never any conversation around it. There was one instance.
But how did you there was one instance what?
Well, this isn't a disclosure, and I told you before, there was one instance where there was one moment of touching where I put her hand on my penis.
You put her hand on your penis?
Yes. That was in the disclosure. That was also, I also told you that before that, when we were in the hotel.
You gotta understand that,
Wow. Just wow.
hard to take it.
I got it.
Okay.
It lasted a few seconds, and that was the last time anything ever.
What were the other girls' names?
No, I'm not going to do, that's not putting anybody's name out there, but wow. So he admitted to exposing himself to a girl who was 10, then she was 11, 12, 13. He admitted to putting a young girl's hand on his penis once. These allegations that came out yesterday, like I said, TV Guide pulled the series, the reruns, off of their network, their TV network. He resigned as a board member, I believe, for the Screen Actors Guild, and I think he was fired. He was going to be in the sequel to Ted 2, and he got fired from that. My goodness, it just shows that you don't know about people. Stephen Collins turned 67 years old a week ago and has had a very long career in both television and in the movies, going back to 1975. I mean, he was in the Waltons. I mean, I remember him being up there with Bill Cosby as far as the greatest TV fathers and all that kind of stuff like that he was, that TV role that he played. He's a practitioner of transcendental meditation. He is national co-director of the Committee for Stress-Free Schools, which advocates practicing TM in schools and funds TM research. But man, how long has this been going on? This is awful. Not awful, like I don't feel sorry for him. I mean, how long has he been a monster if what he confessed to is true? That's crazy. Wow. Stephen Collins, who was revered as just a great TV dad and, someone who walked the walk and everything like that, and turns out that he was anything but. You can hear the whole thing. I'll link you to the TMZ site And on talking360.com, just go to Streets Are Talking and you'll see it there. You may have to scroll down a little bit. But wow. I got more of what you need, man. More information that you have to have coming up next on the Tony Scott Internet Show.
Do you want to reach an audience that you haven't tapped into yet and not blow your budget? The Tony Scott Internet Show is new, growing, and available to you. Advertising on the Tony Scott Internet Show is extremely affordable. Contact us at advertise@TonyScottShow.com.
Back on the Tony Scott Internet Show. Appreciate you listening, sharing, and downloading. Means a lot. Yesterday's show, I think we were up to, when I add, it's on different platforms. It's on iHeartRadio, it's on Spreaker, it's on Podbean, it's on iTunes, it's on YouTube. And when I added up all the listens, it was almost 1,000. So I really appreciate you. I mean, it means a lot. And we're able to grow the show that quickly. So I appreciate that. All the response and stuff, I appreciate that. Comments that I've gotten saying I enjoy the show. Some say, you ever gonna play any songs? Well, no. Not for it's very expensive to get the royalties, to pay the royalty rates for an internet show. As far as playing like licensed music, stuff like that. It's very expensive. And no, man. I'm sorry. I wish I could, because I love old school R&B, 70s, 80s, some of the 90s. I quit liking, I think, R&B music. The current stuff, that's garbage. But I mean, that's just me. That's just me. Hank Baskett is a former NFL player who really had less than a mediocre career, if we're being honest, right? Well, apparently, his claim to fame is that he married a former Playboy playmate, Kendra Wilkerson, and they had a baby and all that, and it's been rough go lately. And he wants to save his marriage. There are allegations he cheated with a transsexual model, so he wants to renew his vows with Kendra. Oh, he wants a do-over. The transsexual in question is named Ava London. And she told Access Hollywood, yeah. She took a lie detector test. And according to a report, Ava London answered yes to all these questions I'm about to give you. Have you ever met Hank Baskett, Kendra Wilkinson's husband? Let me get it right. Have you met Hank Baskett, Kendra Wilkinson's husband, on 2 occasions at your apartment in Sherman Oaks? She said yes. Did Hank Baskett masturbate you at your apartment in Sherman Oaks during the first encounter? According to the report, she said yes. Did you masturbate Hank Baskett at your apartment in Sherman Oaks during the first encounter? Yes. Those are 2 different questions. Did Hank Baskett pay you $400 for the first sexual encounter at your apartment? She, according to this report, said yes. Did Hank Baskett pay you an additional $2,000 on the second visit to your apartment to deny you had ever met him? Yes. Did Hank Baskett call you and ask you to deny that you two met? Reportedly, she says yes. And the final question, did Hank Baskett offer to pay you $5,000 to not talk publicly about your encounters? Plural. Reportedly, she said yes. And apparently all this was going on while Kendra was 8 months pregnant with their second child, who was born this past May. They already have a 4.5-year-old son, Hank the Fourth. So, I don't know. She loves her man. Kendra loves her man. I don't know. I mean, would you stay, if you're a significant other, ladies, if your husband, who you adore, and you just had your second child with, you found out had an encounter with a transsexual. I mean, how much do you want to know about what happened? I mean, how much do you want to know the graphic details? Or is cheating just cheating? And do you take him? I mean, you love him more than the next breath you'll take. The only 2 people you love more are those 2 babies. Do you take him back? If he tells you, I didn't know that was a transsexual, do you believe that? You want to believe that, but come on. Snap out of it. Do you believe that? Man, that's a tough one. I mean, for me, it wouldn't be tough, but when you love somebody, you tend to forgive a lot. But that right there, my friend, that might be a deal breaker. Because that just might be too much for Kendra. I don't know. I haven't talked to her. But, what would you do? Jennifer Lawrence is one of the celebrities that had her personal nude pictures hacked. Right? And they were just put up on the internet for all the world to see. And a lot of these actresses were horrified by it. Some of them like, yeah, whatever. And then sometimes some of us said, yeah, whatever. Like the pictures of Rihanna and Kim Kardashian. We've seen them nude. We're over that. But in an interview, Jennifer Lawrence says that this is not a scandal. This is a sex crime. Quote, it's a sexual violation. Anybody who looked at those pictures, you're perpetrating a sexual offense. You should cower with shame. See, when I think of something being a sex crime, I think of, I think of rape. There was some kind of rape that happened. And so I don't really look at this as a sex crime. Now, understand something. I am, one, not a beautiful woman or Omarion, okay? Two, I've never had nude pictures of me leaked, much less even taken. There are no nude pictures of me anywhere on this planet. So I don't know what that feels like. But to me, it doesn't rise to the level of what I think a sexual crime is. I'm not dismissing it as not being important, because if it's important to you, then you call it what you want. I just don't think that it rises to the level of actually being a sexual crime, because there's no sex involved. It's a picture of you naked. Is it an invasion of privacy? Absolutely, it's an invasion of privacy. Is it cyber stalking? Absolutely, it's cyber stalking. Because they're just laying in the bushes for you, and then they got you. So yeah, it's cyber stalking. Do we need to have laws written that address this? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Are they enforceable? I have no idea. I don't know. But a sex crime, there was. I mean, because rape is not sex. Rape is an act of violence, and I get that. Sex does happen in a rape, but it's not consensual, and it's violent. But there was no sex here for it to be labeled a sex crime. Am I seeing it wrong? If I'm seeing it wrong, please correct me. Please. My email is tony@talkin360.com, TALKIN, the number 360.com. I would love to get your perspective on that, because I just don't see this as a sex crime. I see it as something horrible. Don't get me wrong. Is it a sexual violation? No, I don't think it is, but it's bad. It is bad. And I feel bad that if you didn't want your pictures out there, I feel bad that it happened to you. But at the same time, I mean, in this world where we know that corporations are being hacked and people's information stolen, knowing that, why would you just set your nude pictures up on the internet somewhere? Why would you do that? That makes no sense. That's crazy, but, what can I tell you? I got more coming up on the Tony Scott Internet Show. Hold on.
Do you want to reach an audience that you haven't tapped into yet and not blow your budget? The Tony Scott Internet Show is new, growing, and available to you. Advertising on the Tony Scott Internet Show is extremely affordable. Contact us at advertise@TonyScottShow.com.
Hit it. Yes. Can I get some bass? Yes. Welcome back to the Tony Scott Internet Show. A couple things I do want to remind you of. One is that our very popular Men on Scandal show is up. We're reviewing last week's episode, The State of the Union. There'll be a new episode, of course, tomorrow night, and we'll be on that also. But if you haven't checked it out, you owe it to yourself, because it's from the perspective of three what we like to think of as intelligent men, Mark Clark, Troy Johnson, and myself. A man's take on a show that targets women, Scandal. Pointing out some things maybe that you don't think about, But check it out if you can. Go to menonscandal.com and see that. Also, if you go to talkin360.com, I do this tech show, and it's not like one of these tech shows where I'm talking about the Knooter valve or whatever it is on a computer, or how to build a computer and how much RAM you need for all this and that. No, it's just simple tech news. It won't make your head explode, but it's probably information that might be useful to you. It's not necessarily about gadgets, it's about tech and news. Like, for example, the Marriott was fined by the FCC $600,000. Why? Well, go and watch it. Go to talking360.com. At the top, you'll see the iTonyTech button. Just click that, and it'll take you to the latest episode, and I appreciate that. I love this music. I don't know what to do with this. Hey, I told you yesterday that Raven-Symone sat down with Oprah, and she said, well, let me let you hear it.
I will say that I'm in, an amazing, happy relationship with my partner, a woman, and on the other side, my mother and people in my family, they've taught me to keep my personal life to myself as much as possible. So I try my best to, hold the fence where I can, but I am proud to be who I am and what I am.
So you don't want to be labeled gay?
I don't want to be labeled gay. I want to be labeled a human who loves humans. I'm tired of being labeled. I'm an American. I'm not an African American. I'm an American.
Okay, well, everybody's been coming out the woodwork criticizing her for denying that she's African American. And I spoke about this yesterday. And people like Roland Martin suggest that she needs a DNA test. I think that what we're missing here, she doesn't like labels. She doesn't like labels. Obviously, she's an African American, and I think she knows that. But she doesn't want to be labeled. I think that's the point she was making. She does not want to be labeled anything. Gay, lesbian, African American. She just wants to be Raven-Symone. American. I think that's the only label she's probably interested in. So for people to be lashing out at her saying that she doesn't know the struggle and all that, you know what? I don't know her. But and maybe I'm off the mark by saying she doesn't want to be labeled, but that's what I got out of it. I think she's an intelligent woman, and obviously she knows she's an African American woman. Obviously she knows that. So I think people being all up in arms about all this is pretty much for nothing, because at the end of the day, how does her saying that she doesn't want to be labeled, how does that affect your life? That's all I'm saying. Can you believe this? Emerson College in Boston, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's in Boston or something. They responded to a lawsuit from a rape survivor and say they have no legal obligation to prevent the student from being sexually assaulted, and they argue that the lawsuit should be dismissed. Quoting, absent unusual circumstances, there is no duty for a school to protect others from the criminal or wrongful acts of third persons. Wow. I think if I were Emerson, I would dismiss that law firm just for PR reasons. Even if the young woman could somehow prove the college's response was inadequate, inadequacy alone does not equate to atrocious or utterly intolerable conduct, according to attorneys for Emerson College. Man, if my child went to Emerson, I would withdraw them. If I had to get like 3 jobs to send them to a school to their satisfaction, I would just have to pull them out of school. Because I know now that the school, they really don't give a damn. They just want my money. They could give 3 craps about my kid. That's awful. What? What is wrong? What happened? What happened, man? We lost our compassion. We lost our focus. We took our eye off the ball. Man. Jesus is coming, y'all. Everybody look busy. Gonna leave it right there as the Tony Scott Internet Show for this Wednesday. Thank you again for listening, for downloading, for sharing, for reposting. You guys are making this all worthwhile for me. This is, I'm trying to make a living. And if you can help me, it would be so appreciated, all right? Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Be blessed.